Should we watch this one? It's significantly shorter. Okay, so critical strike deals additional 10% plus 0.1. Okay. Okay, we're starting with ult, I guess. Yunara enters the Transcendent state. For 15 seconds, Cultivation of Spirit is activated for the duration. I'm guessing that's some sort of like enhancement. Arc of Judgment is upgraded to Arc of Ruin. His cooldown is reduced by 50%. Coming upgrades. So every ability has like a double version. And when shields, they get transformed. Okay. Cooldown super short and early. The damage scales of this one. And the dash speed goes up. Okay. I'm getting very Zeri-ish vibes off of this. Okay, holy. Passive ability was a little bit short. That's why they jam-packed on others, I'm guessing. So attacks deal additional magic damage. So she has additional magic damage and she has additional crit as well. She scales off of AP on these. So there's like an on-hit variant that's available, but also you want crit. There are no like crit AP items though. Launching an attack causes Yunara to generate 1. Unleash, max 8, 2 when attacking a champ. So 4 auto attacks. Not attacking for 6 seconds causes Yunara to lose 1 every 0.5. Okay, cool. Unleash her potential for 5 seconds. She gains 40% attack speed. Her attacks deal additional. I was about to say like Hail of Blades would be kind of busted because you can almost max stack it immediately. Your passive, but it doesn't really matter because you get attack speed steroid on the variability. This is why modern abilities are so funny. You have an ability that has a stacking mechanic within it, but also that ability is self-sufficient in order to stack it up by itself. Like what the hell? Like this usually in older sort of design would be 2 abilities. You either choose to use the first one in a slightly less optimized manner, or like if you don't have the other one, or you set up both of them. So it's kind of like you have this mega spike with both, but like you have to pick and choose what are you using the other way. He's like leaning on my microphone and hitting my hands. So yeah. Also, she gets even more on-hit damage on these, and her attack spread to nearby enemies doing physical damage. So the spread AoE is AD, but the on-hit is magic. This is an interesting concept, I think. It depends what you optimize for. I guess if you want to do AoE, you will be pivoting more to AD, unless they even do more mixing. In that case, we get the Yone effect, which is get everything by building everything. And that would be stupid. Spread attacks will critically strike if the initiating attack was a crit. Makes sense? Or if the target was a structure and a critical strike was rolled. Okay, so you can crit off the structure. That is very, very interesting. You can crit off the structure onto an enemy. So that's giving some Tristana vibes and like punishing people on their turret. Damage from spread attacks deals 250% damage to minions below 30%. Okay, that's a quality of life, ease of access sort of idea where you don't miss minions, so that you don't come into the Malzahar mistake of the old Malzahar. Spread attacks apply on-hit effectiveness at 30% and lifesteal at 30%. That tracks because it would be so crazy if it was like 100%. So it makes sense. This seems like a very fun champ to play already. Seems super fun to play. Let's see if she's fun to play against. That's how it looks like. You pop it and then you're slamming. That lasts for a long time, man. 5 seconds. Was that longer than 5, or am I crazy? Okay, let's see if I was correct in the prediction of the differentiation between AD and AP. Yunara lets rip a spinning prayer bead that slows down when near enemies and near enemies, that's pretty vague, and lingers and expands when it reaches its endpoint. The initial hit deals some AD and some AP, and slows by 99% over 1.5 seconds. 99% 1.5 seconds. In late game, there's going to be like 4 auto attacks. That sounds kind of insane. It deals additional AD plus AD, flat plus AD plus 25 magic per second to enemies in the area. Okay, whatever the fuck that means. Getting a little bit... it's getting a little bit convoluted. Yunara fires off a laser. This is the upgraded version when you ult. Laser, you say? We gotta play this. Yunara fires off a laser that deals 135 plus 50% AD plus 75 plus 135. So, okay, so when she ults, she does both magic and physical, but regularly she does physical. That's wild. The base damage is terrible on this, but it scales really, really well. So I'm guessing you're never gonna be maxing this. And your Q should be more than enough to wave clear anyway. So this is more a setup idea. You're using it more for a slow. How does it work? Let's see the... That's pretty fast. It's pretty fast, but a little bit of a small. So it's gonna come down to like skill of placement and a little bit of a read when it comes out. Interesting. And then at the end it grows. I like the effect. It reminds me of like the Devil May Cry It's gonna be very rewarding if you land like the second part. I think it's gonna be incredible. Look at this. Look at this potential. Like, you will be able to hit a minion, which is gonna get executed. Like, if minion is low, you execute it with this, and it's gonna go through at the moment of minion execution, and then jump into the back if the minion dies, right? So that makes some interesting plays. Oh, that's the upgraded version. This one slows 99% over 1 second. It's kind of wild. Like, it turns more into an execute mechanic. It has a lower, I guess, it has a lower cooldown. So, okay. Kanmei's steps, untouchable shadow. Yunara becomes ghosted. Ghost, I'm guessing she can move through minions, right? 60% increase to 90 when moving towards enemy champs. The decay is over 2 seconds. I guess depends how rapid the decay is. The cooldown is really short, and it gets even lower when leveled up. Yunara dashes in a direction. Okay, this is important. What is the dash range? Notice the cooldowns here. 10 and 6. 10 and 6. Now I don't know what the cooldown is going to be when you ult on the final rank. Because imagine if the left one is 6, the other one would be like 4-ish. So then if you have any sort of CDR, you will be able to dash every 2-3 seconds. That would be insane. I'm surprised it doesn't say anything about a reset when you get a kill to add even more dashes. I think that's more Riot style. Boy, stop hitting me. Untouchable Shadow is considered an ultimate ability. Wait, what do you mean considered an ultimate ability? Using ult resets E so you can... Yeah, that's my Riot! I know my Riot. Using ult resets equalizing a dasher. Not a kill, though. Not a kill, okay. And you can dash over ults. Okay, so dash and then... Wait, what? So satisfying. It's like 80 rise. I just need to know how to count dashes and flashes in this character, right? Okay, I think 80 carry is pointless here anyway. Cannon just solo won that one. Where's the Vandiril one? See if it's got anything interesting now that we have context.
Is automatically activated while Yunara is transcended.
I don't know what's the point of them when you're not shooting the balls.
Let's talk about the ult now before we look at W and D, as ult empowers all the abilities. Yunara's ult is called Transcend Oneself, that enhances all of her basic abilities for the duration. Yunara's W is called Arc of Judgment, Arc of Ruin. Yunara sends a swirling prayer
so much damage.
Which damages and slows enemies as it travels. At its endpoint, it lingers and expands for a moment, continuing to damage enemies.
Wait, okay, so this is also very, very interesting. So the duration is... What? He drank my water. He drank my water. He has his own water, by the way. And he drank my water. Why is he drinking my water? Anyway, this ability is very, very cool because the duration is indefinite in a way. As long as there's enough enemies for it to slow down, you can almost make it last forever. That's very cool. I like that play because you can also play on the cooldowns. Like if you shoot it through the wave, you can kind of plan it to kill the wave in a certain amount of time based on your damage. Then it's going to go forward. In the meantime, you can plan your other play to bait the enemies to move into it.
Who don't get out of the way.
And maybe get a second one.
Transcended, instead of a swirling prayer beat, she
it's always when enemies are nearby.
Magic
That's what it said.
And deals damage in a line. Yunara's E is called Kanmei Steps, Untouchable Shadows. Yunara gains a quick burst of move speed to chase down enemies, reposition or dodge skill shots. While Transcended, instead of a move speed boost, this ability becomes a dash. Now let's have a closer look at Yunara's tooltips, scalings and cooldowns. Here is the passive. Yunara auto attacks that are crit fails with is the ability that you know when you hit an additional magic damage on hit. And how many extra targets can she hit? There is no limit to the amount of units she can hit with her splash damage.
All of them.
As a result, her wave clear with Q activated is super good, and in teamfights she can deal a ton of AoE damage. Another super important thing about Yunara Q...
It looks really cool, man. The pulse. The pulse going through all the minions, it feels like some sort of like a tower defense game. Looks very cool.
It stacks on structures too. But what if you attack the structure with your Q activated? Well, good news for Yunara. Her auto attacks still spread through structures, like here with
They spread and they can still crit, but this is also a double-edged sword, because if you activate this, enemies can stand next to the turret and make the turret focus you. So it's an interesting idea. I like it.
Attacks that spread also deal 250% damage to minions below 30% HP, ensuring you don't miss too many CS.
I think
What is
30% is
also
a solid number as well. It doesn't make your wave clear too broken, but it makes you clear. It makes you execute
worth
minions.
noting is that if you crit your target, the spread attacks will crit as well. Your E becomes a dash, similar to Lucian's. You might be wondering, can she dash through the walls with that empowered E? Well, yes she can.
Yes,
This wall
she
is one of
can.
the biggest wall she can dash through with her empowered E. So
Okay.
not dash through the thickest walls, but through some thinner walls, yes.
Does
Another
it
thing that's
reset
worth
on kill,
noting
though?
is that your ult refreshes your E. This means that before casting your ult,
You should move
you
speed
usually want
always.
to use your E for the movement speed boost.
Yep.
Using E, ult, E is gonna be a very common combo for chasing or escaping. Now let's look at the final tooltip, the tooltip of your ultimate spell. Yunara's ultimate ability has a cooldown of 100, 85, 70 seconds based on the ult seconds, so it's a pretty long time. I already mentioned that ult refreshes the E cooldown, so it's a
Wait,
pretty
it
long
goes-
time.
It goes on cooldown instantly as soon as you pop it, not at the end of the duration. So the cooldown, by the way, it's also fake. Even the initial level rank 1, which I thought was pretty short, 100, that's 85 effectively. You will spend 15 seconds within the ult.
I already mentioned that ult refreshes the E cooldown on cast, but during the testing I noticed that when Transcendent state wears off, it refreshes both her
Again.
W and E cooldowns.
Okay, that's weird. I feel like that's not by design. That seems like a weird thing to design for. It's a little bit random when your ult's gonna expire. Not quite random, but like not something that people would track necessarily and plan their abilities because of it. It just feels like there to be there, you know? You know what I mean?
If this feature is intended, using your W and E right before your Transcendent state wears off would make a lot of sense. Now let's talk a little about game.
I don't like this. This will create so many bullshit moments where you'll have a silver player or like diamond player or whatever the fuck, like not understanding what he's doing, just goes in and he gets vindicated by a billion dashes, rewarded for a bunch of randomness that he wasn't even accounting for. You know, I prefer when the game is a bit more methodical, tactical. Like imagine the guy dashes in and he overcalculates his damage or plan or ability to outplay. He loses, gets shit on, and at the last second he gets all his stuff refreshed, even though he didn't account for it in events. I don't
Your
like that
Transcendent
generally.
state wears off would make a lot of sense. Now let's talk a little about gameplay. Yunara is a traditional auto-attack based AD carry, and Riot doesn't intend for her to be played in other roles. So Riot wants Yunara only as an AD carry in the bot lane. Yunara is intended to serve the player that
I remember the days where Riot didn't intend champs. They just designed it and like let people run with it, play top lane, whatever. That being said, I don't think she can even have like a very good role anywhere else, because as we know, on-hit champs usually suck. You don't expect her to be able to hold her own in mid lane or hold her own in top lane to a lot of champs, because on-hit champs usually scale. They depend on 2-3 item spikes. So she would need this like incubator that is the bot lane to kind of scale up. Depends really how effective her abilities are in early game in trading, like how strong this thing is.
carry, and Riot
I'd see. Like,
doesn't
look at that. He hits the
intend
slow,
for her to be played
goes in.
other
But like, it's if the thing is pushing towards you, just go like left or right. You want to go perpendicular to the like spinning thing, so you don't really take that much damage. Just like a nuisance. Again, I think nobody's really getting hit by that shit in mid lane
roles.
or top lane.
So Riot wants Yunara only as an AD carry
Unless you're like a melee top into an AD, into like a range. And he's drinking my
in the
water
bot
again.
lane. Yunara is intended to serve the player that embraces core skills, such as spacing, positioning, and high
Ostavi.
damage uptime. We've already
Yeah.
gone through her abilities in details, so how should you play her? Let's start in lane. As Riot is suggesting, play safe until your Q is
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be like a weak laner with heavy scaling, super high potential in the late game of clearing fights. I think the closest analog would be something like Zeri, in a way where she does AoE auto attacks, fast movement, chase down potential, but not super strong in duels. That would mean that if you get fed, you're likely going to carry the game in super snowball, but if you suck, it's going to take you really long time to recover. And if the enemy comp is undesirable for you, you will not be able to have access to the enemy. Like if your team doesn't have CC and it doesn't set you up, I don't think you're going to be able to dish out your full rotations, which means you're not going to do enough damage. So she's going to be team dependent. Ostavi. Yeah, I hate to say this. It feels like she might be balanced. It seems that she might be all right in a game, and she won't have like super high win rate. She's gonna be skill heavy. But yeah, it seems super fun to play. Seems counter playable. You don't get refunds on kills, which is what I'm happy about. You don't get refund on kills, just on your ult, which means you have to like correctly sequence the abilities. I think it's totally fine. I always love one-hit champs. A lot of interactions, a lot of very fun ideas that you can go like full AP, full AD with a little bit on, you know, like full crit. There's like a lot of variance within the build paths and can be very, very interesting based on the metas. Seems very fun. I'd like to try her.